Because you can tell when there is a woman who has her own power, who exists not only as someone's wife, who has a business, has a voice, has independent value. This is the story of such a woman. Ayesha Curry is 48 years old. She is not just Stephen Curry's wife. Ayesha is a businesswoman. Ayesha is a mother. Ayesha is a person with her own life. You can tell when there is a woman who exists completely. For years, Ayesha supported Stephen, but she also built her own life, her own business, her own circle, her own purpose. You can tell when there is a woman who is not just standing beside someone, but often the world sees her as Stephen Curry's wife, not as Ayesha, not as a businesswoman, not as a strong mother, as an accessory. You can tell when there is a truth that is invisible. But Ayesha learned to live with that because she knows that her truth is different. She knows that she knows who she is, and sometimes that is enough. You can tell when there is a woman who has inner peace. One day, Ayesha planned something special, not for Stephen, for herself, a celebration of her business reaching a milestone. She invites friends to dinner, an elegant place she has always wanted to go, a restaurant with a reputation, 5 stars, a place that demands dignity. You can tell when there is a woman who wants to celebrate herself. Ayesha makes a reservation weeks in advance under the name Ayesha Curry. She confirms everything because she deserves it, because she worked for it, because she is no one but herself in this moment. You can tell when there is a woman who makes herself a priority. The day of the celebration arrives. Ayesha gets ready. Beautiful clothes, but not flashy. Hair, makeup, shoes, because she wants to feel good, not because she wants to impress, because she wants to honor herself. You can tell when there is a woman who respects herself. Her friends arrive. They laugh, they talk, they celebrate Ayesha, because true friends see a woman, not just her position. They see her strength. They see her life. You can tell when there is a woman who is truly seen. They arrive at the restaurant, elegant entrance, well-dressed people, an atmosphere of power. Ayesha feels big here, not smaller, big. You can tell when there is a woman who occupies space. They approach the reception. The Maître is there, a man between 50 and 60 years old, impeccable, who represents a system of power, the one who decides who is sufficient to be in this place. You can tell when there is a system that judges. Ayesha steps forward. "Hello, I have a reservation. The name is Ayesha Curry." The Maître looks in the book, finds it. But in that moment, something changes in his expression, because he looks at her and processes. Woman, approximately 48 years old, alone with friends, no man. And his face says, "You are not the type of client we expect here." You can tell when there is a truth that is judgment. "Ah, yes, Madame Curry, but we have a situation. The table you reserved is temporarily unavailable." Ayesha feels a weight rising, but she maintains composure. "Excuse me, the reservation was confirmed." "Yes, but we have a VIP client who needs that section. We can offer you a different table. Or perhaps you would like to return another day?" You can tell when there is an excuse that is an insult. Ayesha understands. It is not about the table being unavailable. It is about the Maître deciding, "You are not important enough for this table," because he does not recognize who she is, or because she is a woman without a man at her side. You can tell when there is a truth that is clear. "Who is the VIP client?" Ayesha asks. The Maître has no answer, because there is no VIP client, because the truth is you seemed insignificant to him. You can tell when there is a lie that is transparent. Ayesha feels anger, but she also feels something else. Exhaustion. Exhaustion from having to prove her value. Exhaustion from having to say who she is to be respected. You can tell when there is a woman who is tired. She looks at the Maître. You don't recognize me, do you? The Maître grows uncomfortable. Madame, this is not. My name is Ayesha Curry. I have a business here. I have a life here. But you decided without knowing anything about me that I was not important enough for this table. You can tell when there is a woman who names the truth. The Maître tries to recover. Ah, you are Mrs. Curry, wife of... And there it is, there is the moment. When the Maître recognizes Ayesha, he recognizes her because she is someone's wife, not because she is Ayesha. You can tell when there is a truth that is devastating. Yes, Ayesha says calmly, I am Stephen Curry's wife. But that should not have mattered. 10 minutes ago you rejected me because you did not recognize me, because you assumed I was insignificant. You can tell when there is a woman who does not allow a lie. The Maître is in panic. Madame, I am sorry. I did not know. Of course you knew. You looked at me and decided. And just because I am the wife of a famous man, now I am worthy. What changed? I did not change. My value did not change. Only your perception changed. You can tell when there is a woman who is eloquent in her anger. Ayesha's friends are in silence because they are watching a woman who will not accept an easy apology, a woman who wants to be seen not as an accessory, but as a person. You can tell when there is a woman who claims space. The Maître is shattered. Mrs. Curry, please, allow me. No, Ayesha says. I will leave. Not because you rejected me, but because your restaurant does not deserve my presence. A place that needs to know who my husband is to respect me is not a place for a woman who knows herself. You can tell when there is a woman who chooses dignity over satisfaction. Ayesha turns, looks at her friends. Shall we? They leave. Together, heads held high. The Maître watches them go. Understanding too late, he rejected someone far greater than he could comprehend. You can tell when there is a woman who walks away in power. The street is cool at night. Ayesha is calmly furious, not at the Maître, at the system, at a world that makes women prove their value, at a world that only respects a woman if she is connected to a man. You can tell when there is anger that is political. Her friends offer, shall we go somewhere else? Ayesha says, no, let's go home. Because she does not want to escape this. She wants to process it. She wants to understand it. You can tell when there is a woman who faces truth. In the car, during the drive home, Ayesha thinks. She thinks about years of being someone's wife, about years of supporting Stephen and his dreams, about years of her own life being smaller, not because she was forced, but because she chose to believe it was right. You can tell when there is a woman who recognizes her own sacrifice. She arrives home. Stephen is not there. He is at a game. So Ayesha has time to be alone, time to process, time to recognize. The Maître's rejection was not about the Maître. It was about a pattern. It was about a system. It was about how the world treats the wives of famous men. You can tell when there is a woman who sees the system. The night passes. Ayesha does not sleep well because her mind is working, processing, connecting the dots. You can tell when there is a woman who cannot avoid the truth. In the morning, Stephen returns from the game. He is tired, as always. He goes to the kitchen where Ayesha is making coffee. "How was your night?" Stephen asks. And Ayesha could lie. She could say, "It was fine, we went out with friends." She could let it pass. But Ayesha is not a woman who lets things pass. You can tell when there is a woman who faces truth. "Stephen, I need to tell you something." Stephen senses this is important. Ayesha tells him everything. The restaurant, the reservation, the rejection, the recognition only after the Maître knew who she was. Stephen becomes furious. "Ayesha, why didn't you call me?" "Because," Ayesha says slowly, "this is not about you. It is about me." You can tell when there is a woman who claims her own story. "Explain," Stephen says. And Ayesha sits down. She begins to speak about the pattern she started to see. "How long have we been together, Stephen?" 20-something years. Exactly, 20-something years. "And in how many of those years have I been seen as Ayesha Curry, businesswoman?" Stephen does not answer immediately, because he knows. You can tell when there is a truth that is uncomfortable. "I have been seen as your wife, as the mother of your children, as the woman by your side. And that is part of my life. But it is not my whole life. I have a business. I have ideas. I have value that has nothing to do with you." You can tell when there is a woman who names invisibility. "Ayesha." "Stephen, let me finish." "When the Maître rejected me, it was not because I was insignificant. It was because he did not know who I was. And that was revealing, because I realized this is something that happens to me all the time. You can tell when there is a woman who sees the system." Stephen tries to help. "But you are my wife, and you are an incredible mother. That is not... I love being your wife. I love being a mother. But I also want to be seen as Ayesha. I want the world to recognize I am a person with my own power. You can tell when there is a woman who claims wholeness." Stephen sits. He truly processes it. "You are right," he finally says, "and this was my fault too. Because often your business is something you do as well, not something you are. You can tell when there is a man who truly listens." "Yes," Ayesha says, "exactly. I am not angry at you, Stephen. I am angry at the system, at a world that makes women prove their value by association, at a world that assumes a woman next to a famous man is only an accessory. You can tell when there is a woman who articulates injustice." Stephen says something that changes everything. "So what do you want to do?" Not "how can I help?" Not "I will fix this." But what do you want to do? You can tell when there is a partner who listens. Ayesha takes a deep breath. "I want to go back. I want that mate to see me, not as Stephen's
wife, but as Ayesha. I want that restaurant to understand you rejected a woman of power. I want the world to understand women do not need men to be worthy. You can tell when there is a woman who has vision. I will go with you, Stephen says. Ayesha looks at him. But I want you to understand. You are not there to save me. You are there to witness. To see your wife claim her power. To see that I do not need you for that. But it is better when you are there. You can tell when
there is a woman who articulates real partnership. Stephen understands. I understand. You are the protagonist. I am the support. Exactly, Ayesha says. And in that moment there is mutual understanding, because Stephen is not being diminished. He is seeing his wife in her full power, and that makes him bigger. not smaller. You can tell when there is a partnership that is real. Days pass. Ayesha plans her return, not as revenge, but as affirmation, because she knows she does not need to prove anything, but the world needs to learn something. You can tell when there is a woman who has purpose. She speaks with her friends, they offer to come again. Ayesha says, "This time I will go differently. This time I will take up space. I will be Ayesha." You can tell when there is a woman who reclaims identity. The night before the return. Stephen says, "I am proud of you." Ayesha replies, "I have not done anything yet." "You have already done everything," Stephen says. "You
Recognized. You named it. You claimed it. That is already victory. You can tell when there is a man who celebrates a woman's power. Ayesha sleeps in peace because she understood something fundamental. Her value does not come from being someone's wife. Her value comes from being Ayesha. And finally, she is ready to show it. You can tell when there is a woman who is free. A week later, a night of power, Ayesha prepares differently this time. Not because she wants to impress the Maître, but
because she wants to feel her own strength. You can tell when there is a woman who honors herself. Clothes that make her feel big, hair, makeup, energy. But it is not about appearance. It is about presence. Because Ayesha understood. Real power is not about how you look. It is about how you feel. You can tell when there is a woman who is aware. Stephen arrives, already ready. Ayesha looks at him. "You understand what you are about to see, don't you? You are going to witness your wife claim space. You are going to see the woman who was always here, now being seen." Stephen holds her hand. "I am ready." You can tell when there is a partner who is truly present. The car takes them to the restaurant, the same restaurant that rejected her. Ayesha feels her heartbeat, not from fear, from power. Because she knows what she is going to do. You can tell when there is a woman who is grounded. They arrive. They step out of the car. Ayesha's friends are waiting outside. Hugs, energy of support, because women see women. Because friends celebrate friends. You can tell when there is collective feminine energy. They enter the restaurant. The Maître sees Ayesha arriving. His face changes because now she is not alone with friends. Now she is with a man who is clearly familiar, Stephen. And the Maître is entering panic. You can tell when recognition comes too late. But Ayesha does not wait for the Maître. She walks toward him with presence that fills the space, with dignity that is undeniable, with power that cannot be ignored. You can tell when there is a woman who occupies. "I am returning to the table that was reserved," Ayesha says. It is not a question, it is an affirmation. The Maître tries, "Mrs. Curry, what an honor, allow me." "No," Ayesha says, "you have the opportunity to do this right, or to do this wrong. You choose." You can tell when there is a woman who controls the dynamic. The Maître leads Ayesha to the best table, because now or he knows who she is. But Ayesha confronts him calmly. "One question. Why did you reject me last week?" The Maître is uncomfortable. "Madame, I did not know you were—" Exactly. You did not know I was Stephen Curry's wife? But you did know I was a woman you were rejecting. And that was enough for you to make me feel insignificant. You can tell when there is a woman who articulates injustice. The truth is, Ayesha continues, you would never have discovered who I am. Because my value should not depend on knowing your social code. I should be worthy because I am Ayesha. But that was not enough for you. You needed someone famous to validate my presence. You can tell when there is a woman who names the system. Stephen stands beside her. He places his hand on Ayesha's shoulder, not as a sign of ownership, but as a sign of support, as a sign of, do you see my wife? Do you see her power? You can tell when there is a man who celebrates a woman. The world around is listening. Because Ayesha is speaking to the Maître, but she is speaking to everyone. Women do not exist to be validated by men. Women are not more worthy when they are with a famous man. Women are worthy as they are, because we exist, because we live, because we are. You can tell when there is a truth that is universal. The Maître is broken, trying to recover. Mrs. Curry, I am sorry. You were always welcome here. Ayesha smiles, but it is not a smile of acceptance. It is a smile of power. You are right. I was always welcome here. Because my value did not come from you. It came from me. You simply could not see. You can tell when there is a woman who knows her own value. She sits. Her friends sit around her. Stephen sits, and dinner begins. But it is not a normal dinner. It is a celebration of a woman who claimed space, of a woman who was seen, a woman who did not accept invisibility. You can tell when there is an occasion that is historic. Social media begins to explode because someone recorded it. A video of Ayesha confronting the Maître, a video of a woman who refused to be smaller, a video of a man who supported and celebrated. Hashtag Ayesha Curry is equal begins trending because the world saw something rare. The world saw a woman who claimed power. You can tell when there is a movement that is organic. During dinner, Stephen whispers, "You were incredible." Ayesha replies, "I was always incredible. The world just could not see." You can tell when there is a woman who knows the truth. The Maître passes by several times during dinner, offering free wine, offering a special dessert. But Ayesha is not interested in his gestures because it is not about appeasing the Maître. It is about her having affirmed her value. You can tell when there is a woman who does not need an apology. The video circulates rapidly, not only because it involves Stephen Curry, but because it involves a woman who claimed space, because it involves a man who supported, because it involves a truth the world is ready to hear. You can tell when there is a narrative that is necessary. Social media explodes, but it is not, look, Stephen Curry in a restaurant. It is, look, a woman who refused invisibility. Hashtag Ayesha Curry is equal. Hashtag women are equal. Hashtag my wife is equal. Because women begin to share. I was rejected until a man stood beside me. I was seen as an accessory until my husband validated me. I am invisible without a famous man. But this needs to change. You can tell when there is a collective movement. Journalists begin to report. Ayesha Curry reclaims space. Woman refuses invisibility. Partnership, not possession. Because the story touches something deep. Because the world recognizes this is not about a restaurant. It is about a system. You can tell when there is a systemic truth. Interview requests come. Ayesha accepts some, not all. Because she knows the message matters, not her face on television. In one interview, she says, "This was not about a restaurant maître. It was about how the world treats women, women as accessories, women as validated by men. This needs to end." You can tell when there is a woman who articulates truth. Stephen is asked, "Why did you go with her?" His answer is powerful. because my wife asked me to witness her power, not to save her, not to validate her, but to see how she claims her value. And I am honored to be there. You can tell when there is a man who understands partnership. The world responds because it becomes an example. Men begin to question, how have I been with my wife? Do I see her? Do I honor her? Or is she beside me while the world ignores her? Because Stephen and Ayesha model something different. You can tell when there is a couple that informs the world. Similar stories emerge. Women sharing moments when they were made invisible. Women who claim space. Women who occupy, because Ayesha opened a door. You can tell when there is an action that triggers a movement. For you, who are an invisible woman. For you, who were underestimated. For you, who were reduced to someone's wife. For you, who forgot to be you. Ayesha offers a truth. Your value does not come from being with a man. Your value comes from being, from existing, from being worthy simply because you are. You can tell when there is a message that is liberating. For you who are a man, for you who love a woman, for you who want true partnership, for you who want to be an ally. Stephen offers a demonstration. Do not save your woman. See your woman. Do not validate your woman. Honor your woman. Do not place her beside you. Place her equal to you. Because real partnership is not subordination. It is equality. You can tell when there is an example that transforms. 1 year later, Ayesha is seen differently. Not only as Stephen Curry's wife, but as Ayesha Curry, businesswoman, mother, woman of power. Her business grows because the world is seeing, because women are supporting, because her story inspired others. You can tell when there is transformation that is real. Stephen often says in interviews, "My wife is one of the strongest people I know, not because she is with me, but despite being with me, because she exists completely, and the world is finally beginning to see." You can tell when there is a man who celebrates a woman. For you who are 50 plus, for you who spent your life being your accompaniment, for you who forgot yourself, for you who believed your youth was your value, Ayesha offers a new narrative. You are not invisible because you are older. You are invisible because the world never learned to see women. But you can change that. You can claim space. You can be seen. You can be honored because you were always worthy. The world just could not see. You can tell when there is a truth that is liberating. The restaurant that rejected Ayesha, it changed its policy. It trained its staff about respect, about how all people are worthy, about how assumptions based on appearance are harmful. But this is not about the restaurant learning. It is about Ayesha teaching. You can tell when there is an action that transforms a system. And so Ayesha's story transcended the restaurant because it became a story about how to be seen, how to claim space, how to be honored, how not to accept invisibility, how partnership is equality, not possession. You can tell when there is a story that changes culture. For you who are a woman, 50 plus, for you who were an accompaniment for decades, for you who forgot, you are a person. Ayesha's message is clear. It is never too late. It is never too late to be you. It is never too late to claim power. It is never too late to be seen. It is never too late to be honored, because your value did not diminish. The world just was not looking, but you can make it look. You can tell when there is a truth that is
final. End of the complete script.